Hi everybody, welcome to AI TV. We're broadcasting live from AI Expo Africa 2020 online, the online edition because of COVID. And AI TV this year is also broadcasting online. We're using Zoom to run our media center and interview all the speakers and sponsors that have come both locally, regionally, and globally to this year's event. And one of the great things about this platform for this year is we've had a lot more international attention and a lot more international speakers and sponsors. And one of them is Neil Sahota, University of California, who joins us on AI TV. Welcome, Neil, to the show.
Hey, Nick, thanks for having me on. It's a blast to be here and always great talking with you.
Yeah, Neil, look, I mean, the number of hats you wear are multiple, and I didn't want to stumble my line by introducing you with making a mistake. So maybe you can tell the viewers a little bit about what you're doing, because I mean, you're actually very, very active in this space.
Well, I believe that my goal in life is to help make the planet at least leave it as good as I found, if not better. And so, I'm a faculty member and a chief innovation officer within the University of California system. I'm an IBM Master Inventor. I was part of the original IBM Watson team, built up the ecosystem. And I'm very proud of my work with the United Nations, helping them start AI for good, as well as serve as their subject matter expert. And I'm the author of the book, Own the AI Revolution. So one head, but like four hats.
Yeah. And look, I mean, Neil, your day, I know, is very busy, and I appreciate the time you've spared to join us today. But you gave a talk at the show, and I think one of the complimentary talks that was alongside you was that from Fred Werner from the AI for Good Global Summit in Geneva. And one of the themes is about moving the needle. And you and I have spoken multiple times about, Africa being a bigger part of the narrative, which is traditionally East and West and Northern Hemisphere orientated. And actually what people don't realize is it's actually a very vibrant data science, machine learning, deep learning community of communities in the region. And given the number of people in the region that contribute to the population of the planet, we should be more engaged. So, you're helping drive things with AI for Good and the SDGs. What are the big mega trends that you're seeing and observing? Because you've got literally probably one of the most comprehensive global views of anyone I know.
I can tell you that local problems with global solutions. I mean, I saw all the great work, the fantastic speakers, and everyone participating in, AI Expo Africa. And I think people don't realize that they're tackling a lot of challenges locally, right? Things around jobs and food production and safety and natural disasters. These are problems actually on a global scale. And so if they can come up with a local solution, it's something that we can replicate across the globe. And I don't think as people realize how much talent and knowledge and, everyone believes that Africa is going to be the next large growth area in the world over the coming decade. But I think one of the big things that actually the continent has going for it is the ability to leapfrog. And so, what do I mean by leapfrog? They're not tied to some existing infrastructure like the rest of us. And so they kind of get to start building an infrastructure with the current technology or the emerging technology. It's like mobile, right? You look at North America and Europe, we had a bunch of landlines. And so the move to mobile was a lot slower for us. But you look at like Africa or even China, where there was like a landline culture, they jumped straight into mobile. And as a result, think about how advanced they are with like mobile payments or even looking like mobile job searches. And I think that's really led to a lot of amazing innovation. And I think that's actually a huge leg up.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've been in the sort of tech scene here in Southern Africa for the last, on and off until 2010 and then permanently from 2011. So the last sort of 9 years I've been here. And when you go to sort of community meetups and you talk to other entrepreneurs and innovators, you realize actually, I mean, you don't realize the power of the phone. There's kids on taxis doing school lessons and learning as they go, and they sit in there. They might be on a long journey to get to school, but they're actually using that time to do lessons, even on feature phones. And so, yeah, you're right. I think the potential to unleash more creativity and solve problems is wrapped up in the mobile phone. I mean, I think the other interesting observation from the sessions I watched was the talk about the different models around the world. So if you look at Asia and particularly China, it's a government-led model. If you look at Northern Europe, it's a very policy, privacy, individually centric revolution. And then if you look at, say, North America, it's very much like Silicon Valley, startup driven culture. Now, the model that's emerging in Africa is almost like a hybrid of, startup and business innovating together. Have you seen that kind of trend yourself? I mean, being in the world that you're in?
I do, and I think this is what makes Africa kind of a melting pot of these things like you're talking about, Nick. In that a lot of the people I've seen, like I met some folks from Malawi that are trying to build an app to help people build up their skills to get jobs, right? And they're really doing that to meet a need. And the need is there's a lot of people that just can't get good wages. And it's like it's a pain point they feel every day. And so there's a personal passion to them doing that. And so you get kind of that very entrepreneurial spirit out of it. But they also see an opportunity to create a business. On the flip side, I met some folks from Zimbabwe as well as Uganda that actually look at the cultural aspect of some of this, that they're kind of worried that, as the world becomes more interconnected in a smaller place, some of the traditions are being lost, some of the language is being lost, and they're actually turning to things like AI to preserve their heritage, which is ironically actually a big thing for the United Nations right now in trying to protect the culture and traditions of indigenous people. And so now you have another group of people, again, very entrepreneurial, but they're looking at this from more of a cultural standpoint than just like a purely business standpoint. And so it's interesting to kind of see these dynamics because obviously it's things that people are experiencing. That's why they're actually pursuing them, but they're doing it on a much larger scale than I've seen anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky to have a couple of researchers who were looking at African language. Well, I guess it leads to African language preservation, but getting African languages translated and trained up models for essentially 2,000 different languages in the entire continent. And one of the languages was Fon from Benin and in West Africa. And the problem they've got is availability of training data. And how do you do that? I mean, it's almost like one of the grand challenges of our time. I mean, English, NLP, NLG, and Spanish and more mainstream languages have been worked on fairly eloquently so far, and they'll improve over time. But for the African continent, we've got a lot of work to do, and it's a big sort of almost like kind of Elon Musk sized challenge to actually crack that. But there's people doing it, and I think that's where the idea around collaboration can come from. That there are businesses that have that need, and therefore an entrepreneur can marry up with a business rather than an investor, and they can work together and fund potentially the solution to that problem. So I think it's an interesting dynamic that we have here. What were some of the takeaways from coming to an online event for you, Neil? I mean, you've probably been to several already this year. But did you see anything that caught your eye?
I actually liked kind of the virtual booth setup. One of the challenges I've been experiencing with virtual events in general, it's kind of hard to connect with people, right? You don't get the kind of the same level of engagement, and you can't just sit down somewhere and have a coffee.
Yeah.
But I thought the virtual booth was actually a nice touch because it kind of created more one-on-one time. If they're busy or not available for some reason, at least you could watch some videos or whatever, but you could schedule like an appointment. And I thought that kind of helped do some of that social bridging we need right now to make up for the lack of FaceTime.
Yeah, I must admit, for many people it was new. It was new for us as well. I mean, as organizers. So I think we've all conducted quite an interesting experiment. The feedback was broadly very positive. A few steep learning curves for people, but I think we are seeing a shift, and I think also the positive upside to COVID and bringing it full circle back to, solving problems, is that, it takes often a catastrophe to make us realize, hey, actually we need to change the way we're working. We need to change the way we're abusing the planet. We need to change the way we're commuting to work, and maybe there will be some efficiency drives from this challenge that we're all experiencing at the moment. I mean, sorry, go on, Neil. Go on, carry on.
I was just going to say, I love your optimistic attitude about this, Nick. I mean, I think we all agree that COVID is horrible, right? It's a tragedy, but it's interesting. It's also the great accelerator, like you're talking about, right? It's kind of forced us to disrupt ourselves in so many ways. And, everyone talks about the new normal. And I'm like, I don't think it's really the new normal. I think it's just the next normal.
Yeah.
And, like one of the hats, I wear is as an educator, and even at the university system, even the elementary schools and stuff, we were talking about virtual classrooms. A lot of people are like, that's at least 10, 15 years away. And now not only is it the norm, we got people actively talking about like, well, why don't we have like VR classrooms? And now you got a bunch of people now working actively trying to make that happen. So he said there's a positive out of this. I wish it didn't take COVID for us to light the fire of urgency, but I like the fact that you're looking at the bright side.
Yeah, I've always been a glass very much half full, and it hasn't been without its challenges for ourselves. I mean, Neil, anyone watching this video on AI TV and thinking, hey, I've never really heard of these SDGs and AI for good, where would be a great starting point for someone new to this field to jump in and start familiarizing themselves with this whole domain?
I would come to the AI for Good website. I mean, if you just Google AI for Good ITU, which is the UN agency that runs it, it's a vast portal of information where you'll learn about what we're doing. The SDGs are 17 goals the member nations have agreed upon for a better world. Things like zero hunger and poverty, gender equality, smart cities, access to healthcare, good education. I won't bore you with all 17. But how do we use like AI and emerging technology to try and make these happen faster?
Yeah, and, we'll put the link in below here. Would there be any other resources that we can also direct people to, Neil, that we can put in the notes below?
Yeah, so just like we have COVID going on, we've turned everything virtual, so we're actually doing a lot of content all year, all online. And so we constantly have webinars and panel sessions and other activities. And one of the big things we're about to launch is actually AI and art.
Okay.
So if you want to check any of that out, definitely come to the website or follow the social media handles, which are AI for Good or AI for Global Good on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we did an AI art challenge at our own event last year, which I don't know whether Fred got the idea from that there, but yeah, I mean, this year we used a synthetic host generated from text, believe it or not. And every year we're trying to do something new. So it's great to see the summit also embracing that and the creativity that can stem from that. Just to sort of wrap up, what would you say going forward are the top 3 things we as a species, we as humans need to be mindful of with this new kryptonite called AI? We know it's the Achilles heel of Superman, but could it be the Achilles heel of humans, or could it be the miracle cure for many of the problems that we have? What are your top 3 thoughts on that?
Well, one, I think we have to be ever vigilant, right? AI, like all technology, is a tool. It's all about how we choose to wield it. And we have to be vigilant that we're trying to do good things with it, that we're trying to help, not hurt, which means we have to think about not just what we're trying to build, but how that can be potentially used or misused in ways we haven't thought of. So vigilance is number 1. Second, I think that actually AI will make us more human, Nick. I know that sounds bizarre, right? How does a machine make us more human?
Yeah.
But I generally believe that freeing up a little bit more of our time to work on more complex things, solve bigger challenges, will get us more in touch with our own humanity. If you look at the Loving AI project out of Nairobi right now, they're trying to teach. The biggest illness in the world is loneliness. 40% of the world suffers from it pre-COVID. They're trying to teach AI unconditional love to try and give people an outlet for loneliness, right? Someone to talk to, not a replacement for human relationships, but someone to talk to, build for confidence, and help them feel like they're not alone. But what's unconditional love, right? How do you define that? How do you teach that to
What's
machine?
the
How's that
algorithm
different
for
than
that?
regular love? Yeah, and so it's turning this very deep experiment or really deep thought into what does it mean to be human. So I really believe AI will help us make us more human. And third, I can't stress this enough. I know a lot of people think, okay, AI, a lot of technology and math and stuff going on. I need really great data scientists and AI guys and all this stuff. It actually starts with the domain experts. It starts with each one of us. We all know the pain points that we face. And as smart as these technologists are, I haven't met many that know the on-the-ground problems of a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a farmer. So the ideas really start with us. We should just understand a little bit about the capabilities, but that's how we tap into the potential. The most successful AI ventures, whether they're startups, they're social crusaders, or they're big companies, the most successful ideas start from non-technical business people or domain experts. So I encourage everyone to embrace and think about what they could actually do.
Well, that's great, Neil. I mean, there's three sage ideas and topics that we can get our heads around. I think when I was at the AI for Good Summit panel that I was on last year, we were talking about AI in things like the media and fake news. And I think we also need to get, I mean, one of my recommendations is always for people just to step back a little bit and say, well, just look at the world around us right now. Things like fake news have been around for decades. The news is really the reflection of the editor and the bias of the editor, and whether that bias is conscious or subconscious or whatever it is, or they're being paid even to tell a story. We shouldn't be taking it at face value, and you need to do your homework and your research. But I think we've kind of gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole in some respects with the debate, because I think we've lost sense of, hey, what's happened behind us before we've got to this point, and maybe AI can unravel that problem and bring us, bring clarity to the debate that perhaps we've lost sight of. So yeah, fascinating suggestions and thoughts there to end on, Neil. Look, it just leads me to say, Neil, thanks for your contribution to the event and your talk. I know you're a very, very busy gentleman. I have no idea what time it is on your side of the world. Right? You probably just got out of bed or something. But as always, your commitment and willingness to get hands-on and help and share your knowledge and information with people is very admirable. And I want to thank you for your contribution and for coming on AI TV today.
Hey, my pleasure, Nick. Hey, I'm just trying to do my part to help leave the world at least as good as I found it. So thank you for the opportunity, and it was my pleasure. I had a blast.